Second Ambika Joshi.
I don't know.
We can't hear you, so you'll have to tell
I
us when
think
you
it's
come
the
back.
stream thing. I think that's where we'll see the people. I'm so tired.
Do you want? Have you? Of course, you have.
No, what are you up to?
Tired.
Sorry, Babu. ओके अब चालू हो गया है ना
Yeah.
तुम्हें आना है इधर कि इधर है then you have to be on this side. Should I get you coffee? नहीं चलेगा ओ अंदर से मेकिंग बनी पड़ी है बस मिक्स कर दे
No.
okay अभी तो you cannot touch the computer इधर आओ hi all who joined give me a minute I have to settle this little one a little bit okay if you have any friends who want to join last minute, they are most welcome to. Sorry guys, yeah, just अपन दोनों ही I guess.
Hello, Rasagya.
वो I think वो do.
Hi, Samira.
Close the door, Baba. Okay. Hi all. Hi Samira. Hi Rasagya, Gursehej. We can all talk freely. This is not a regular Zoom, whatever.
Oh yeah, सब mute पे है.
Uh, our hope is that we can continue these conversations, but right now we have only planned one more after this. So, welcome to OPOPOP. If you don't know the reference, we just very randomly grabbed it from what people do on game streams when they say OPOPOP, which I believe is
Overpowered.
overpowered. But some people know it as original poster in Reddit.
Yeah.
So there has been some known confusion around this terminology. But as Nanditi and I always do, we just claim it and then it's ours, just like colonial.
Different OPs means different full forms.
या बट हम बहुत कलोनियल एटीट्यूड्स लेते हैं और हम कहते हैं कि ये हमारा है so but anyway I'll just introduce be a little bit decent and introduce Divya and Charu and the idea is that after that introduction which is a bit more formal we do a little bit more conversational kind of a thing and then they have actually thought of the format in a much nicer way than I believe I or Nanditi could have. They want to play and explain the games, which is amazing, and they will share the links on the chat. So if you guys want to play them as well, you can. But first, so I'm trying to find the bios with a chat between Divya and me, but Divya and me talk the whole day, every day, so it's very difficult. Fine. I got it now. Okay. Charu is a freelance game developer based in Bangalore, and she's a graduate of BITS Pilani. Her independent career encompasses a variety of projects from traditional game development to creating interactive art experiences. In addition to her professional engagements, she fosters a personal interest in developing her own games, primarily focusing on the puzzle genre. Currently, she is collaborating with her sister on an intriguing murder mystery game integrating elements of AI. And Divya is a multidisciplinary, also her sister is a multidisciplinary creator who works on everything from games and products to comics and movies. And she's has an integrated master's in physics from IIT Kharagpur. And she loves to combine analytical problem solving parts of her brain with the creative problem solving with have I said it right? I think I have. These days she is building a design studio Joyous and working on a murder mystery with her sister. Post work, you can find her folding origami and scouting out friends to interview for her podcast, which is called Thinking on Thinking. So yeah, now
Which
I'll.
has a very fun episode with Ambika, by the way.
Oh, okay, that's sweet. No, no, that's not Ambika. That's Computational Mama.
Correct, correct. It has a very nice episode with computational mama.
So now I'll just start off because I think the thought for us was to look at what it means to game, who can game, where can you game, what is a game. All of these things have been coming to our mind, and we've also been sort of finding that in our practice, sometimes we build interactive pieces which end up feeling or looking like games. So I thought it would be nice for people who are actually doing it more seriously to come and do these conversations with us. First, we had Anurati last week, and of course, now Divya and Charu. So, please, if you guys can just tell us a little bit of like how you guys got into gaming before we start talking about game design.
Um, so I got into playing games when I was 5 year old or 4.5 year old. I want to say, like, I was really really young, and I was living at my nanny's place that time, and my uncle got a computer, and like the super old Prince of Persia, very like white colored clothing dude. Like he used to play that, and from then I think I just like never really stopped. I still like try and finish at least one game, like play one game in a month. Most times it's more than that. And like I've just continued it over the years. Like, yeah, I've played all sorts of games, the games that you really shouldn't dump 1,000 hours in, the games like that would make you cry in 30 minutes, and then you're like, oh my god, why did I play that? That was too hard on my heart, etc., etc. But like yeah, I've just like always played games. One minute.
Yeah, sorry, I muted it.
I think we need a list from you that tells us what are these games that make you cry in 30 minutes. Oh, she has a list. She can give you the list. And but you should try Florence. It's a 30-minute game. It's a narrative experience, and you will cry.
Yeah, I've even Anurati was talking about that. Charu, what about
Yeah,
you? Is your trajectory the same as your sibling, or do you have?
yeah. I mean, we had a computer in our house before I was born, so I don't really remember a time without playing games in my life. So
Right,
it
right.
was just playing games and like whatever my earliest memories are. I remember like we had not had broadband, we had dial-up, and like Sunday we used to get 1 hour, the three siblings sitting together playing games, and we'd play like web Cartoon Network games and stuff like that. And then
Right.
obviously Prince of Persia, Lion King, Aladdin,
Mhm.
Dave, Mario. These were like the earlier things. And then as time has gone on, like I'm not as much like I don't spend as much time with games as Divya does, but still like we always still play games. So like puzzle games. Like, recently played Inscription, and because of Divya and Samiti playing Tension right now, so like, it's going really good. Yeah.
Right. What about Minesweeper and Solitaire? And
Oh, yeah. We had played it. Actually, like one of the really fond memories of childhood is like dad used to play a lot of like solitaire and free cell and stuff like that. And
right.
we, like he would just play, and the whole family would sit nearby and like talk and laugh. And like generally people have memories around like TV. We have memories around the computer screen, one person playing games and four of other four sitting around and laughing.
So sweet. And does some of that reflect in your game making process? And then maybe you guys can segue into more about
Yeah,
the six games. Yeah.
I mean, obviously it does. I think like the way they say, like you can't write novels if you don't read novels, and I think
Mhm.
the same goes for games. I think like even when you're making it, you need to be consuming a lot more. Otherwise, it's a very detached world where you don't know what is actually playing the games and what is making the games. And plus, we love it, so it's not like oh no, we have to play video games. Yeah.
Okay, fair. Yeah. Yeah. So actually,
DJ, you're muted.
I think there is also something to be said about like being exposed to a particular medium from a very young age. And I think we're very fortunate that like our parents didn't have the attitude of, oh my god, games are bad for children, and like you will get bad habits, no games for you.
Yeah,
Because I think like you just appreciate the medium at like a much deeper level. Like I don't know, your language and vocabulary for the all the different like patterns that a particular medium uses like build very strongly when you start engaging with it at a very early age, and especially because if you have a very diverse taste,
right,
like that really also helps, especially when you start making things, you can have like a more nuanced take on those things.
right, right. And I mean, just as a context of why the slide says these six games. So when I think last January, probably not this, but last January, Nanditi and I attended a mid-journey workshop with both Divya and Charu, and then they told us about this amazing thing where they like worked intensely and like did some six games in like what, 4 weeks,
six
6 weeks,
Weeks,
six
months,
six
6
months
months,
6 months.
months.
months,
Oh,
Months.
sorry,
a
sorry.
game a month.
One game per month.
Okay, yeah, yeah, okay. So even that sounds intense. So we felt like okay, maybe that's an interesting place to like kind of drive the conversation, and now I'll leave it to you guys.
Awesome. Okay, so we had some introduction slides, but I guess like this is no use anymore. But like if you guys wanna go and check out, so that link is over there, charudark.itch.io. I can also paste. Charu, maybe you can type it on the
Yeah, yeah.
group. So like. Before 2020, Charu and I had been already working together, and we were working with like this educational games company. But I think like everything that we made there was a lot more prototype styled, and I think like working over like maybe 18 months or so with that team, what we realized is like we think we have like very specific vision for the kind of games we want to make, but we haven't made those. And we decided, okay, like this crazy idea, let's make like 6 games in 6 months. We'll figure out how to do it. And we like managed to do it. Like it took 1 month per game, and we made 6 games. The rest of the year was spent in creative recovery, but that's a different story. But like like we still managed to make it. So these are the 6 games. For this talk we have chosen like 3 games, and like what we learned in those specific games. But yeah, you guys can check out the link or like use the QR code or whatever if you want to like play some of those games together. um okay, Charu, do you want to share your screen?
You can share the next slide. I'll share the game.
Yeah,
So the
okay.
first game we started off with is called Mark. It's an arcade style game and it's about navigating through a puzzle with different obstacles. And this was our first game. So next. So like we wanted to start pretty simple. We knew that what we haven't dealt with is like properly designing a game mechanic and actually expanding levels on it, anything like that. So we decided 1 month is actually a really small time. We're not going to work on art a lot, music a lot. Just keep super simple one mechanic and expand it to 8 or 9 levels. And the biggest thing for us there was that we have to hit the time goal. Okay.
Ah, right.
Hmm.
Yeah. So because I felt like that sets the precedent for the rest of, like if you don't do the first time, like you're not going to take the rest of the timelines very seriously. Yeah. So we spent a lot of gruesome 1 month designing levels. Turns out that like it really the first set of levels were so bad. It was cringy how horrible they were. And I think one of the few things that like few key takeaways that we had from our designing the levels was that initially we were thinking a lot from game designers point of view, so like this is how the level should look like and stuff like that. But the key takeaway and where the level started to get interesting was when we changed our perspective from designer to player. So oh, I'm at this point, what would the player think right now, what would be their challenges, what would they want to do, and how will they get directed, what will be their confusion at those moments and stuff like that. Another thing we really like one of the things that were making our levels really boring is that if you look at the first few prototypes of our levels, and we actually make a documentary for every game that we made, so you can actually go and look at those, is that all our levels were super symmetric. Okay, the player starts here, there's a ledge here, there's a ledge here, there's a pond here, and we realized that in a game, what actually makes it interesting is interesting choices for a player. And as soon as you make things left is also fine, right is also fine, this is also okay, this is also okay, it actually reduces the complexity to half, and hence the interest points reduce, and it starts to feel a little draggy. I think there are a bunch of more, but I think what would be better is if I play the game and I show you the learning, you will like see the game.
Charu, share audio, so I don't know how easy that is on Google Meet, but so we
Okay, I can
can
try.
capture that as well. Yeah. I think share tab पे हो जाएगा.
Share tab up. Do you,
Yeah.
do you hear the audio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's too loud, let me know. Okay.
Okay. The sound is a little too loud. Yeah.
First one. We'll show three of this piece.
Okay, cool. So this was a game, Mark. So, so the game's navigation is super simple. You have a ball. You can choose the angle, and the way wherever you click, the ball goes towards that. Okay. So seems like an introductory level, but we try to divide it into different parts so the player learns each and every component separately. So, for example, like here, if you look at it, there is no way to get to this ball directly. So what the player first learns is the movement, and as soon as they click somewhere, they realize the ball sticks to the point that they come to. All of this is very intuitive, but like we wanted to introduce every single component gradually. Okay, the player is here. Now their first thought would be, okay, there is a green glowing ball. I should probably get that. So they aim towards it and get it. Now you look at it, there's another one which is pretty simple, but as soon as they click on it, they realize, oh, this is a different type of ball. It bounces. So now what we did is, okay, now everybody got it. Like the players got all different type of balls, the collection. The door opened and people mix everything together to get to the. So they learned like everything. Okay, how do you navigate? Like a couple of chances for people to go and they navigate. Now everything was very simple, but like we tried to break out every single concept that the player could learn in and like keep it one after the other. So let's just say we go to the second level. Everything is the same except there is this new component added to it, which are these spikes. Now people are very intuitive about these things. They know that they shouldn't go to a spike. But even if they do, like the game will start automatically. You reach here, you come here. Now what we wanted to do was, okay, so if you go to this directly, you'll notice that you will actually hit that spike behind. Yeah. So we wanted to be like, this is the first time people have to not only think I have to get there, but if I have to get here, I should probably be here. So to get to there, I should probably go here. And it's basically producing a second order thinking which wasn't needed until now. And I think what this sort of thing made us realize what was that we had to like if you have anyone has played Portal, like they have this thing that every your game should be something like that every level is actually a tutorial. So you're understanding your game mechanic, you're breaking them down into smaller chunks, and every time a game is trying to teach you something new. So like we can go to this level where first time enemies start to come up. And this is where like not just positioning, your timing starts to make sense. And a really cool tidbit was that we just wanted like this part was getting boring by having a wall, so we just put like two enemies here. And a very interesting side effect that happened was I saw so many players just spend hours trying to get through those thing, and we tried so hard to make sure it's not possible, and like a couple of them did, and I think it was amazing because like sometimes the delight factor that players get by just getting through it. I got so many screenshots. Look, I beat this here. This was amazing. Yeah, and like obviously, like as the time goes on, the game gets really big. And one of the like small key tidbit that we learned was, and this was our mistake this time, is that every time if you leave a level like this, player dies. And this was a very like players really hated this, and this was a good feedback for us that starting point of a level should always be a safe location.
Right.
I mean these are smaller things, but like I think we learned a lot about game design with this in this game. So if we had just made a ledge there where the player couldn't go further than that, it would have worked out really well.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of levels, and feel free to go and play this game if you want. So, but like, this was like some of the learnings that we had from the game. Yeah. And yeah, this was the first time me making music for a game also, so that was also fun.
This is really fun.
If anyone has any like thoughts or questions or anything. Just
I
feel
feel
free to
like
say anytime.
this is one of those games that I would like to play when I want a fidget spinner. Like instead of a fidget spinner, this is the game I would go to. You need
Thanks.
those kinds
It's
also.
a really nice to hear when somebody is like, "Oh, this is the kind of game I would play at X duration," because you're like, "Wow, my game had some personality."
Yeah. I look for these games, in that situation. And I don't know where to go. Now I know. This is Charu.io.
Yeah, we can go to the second game if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Others, you can unmute and ask. Oh, could you talk a bit? One second. I guess I'll just read it out.
Huh.
Could you talk a bit
No,
about
Yeah.
how you decided to make
Yeah,
this
yeah.
and
So,
what was the idea thought?
so initially, like if you have played this game called Super Hot, then it's this really cool first-person shooter game where time only moves if you move. Okay, so like it's really cool. Like you move very slowly and you shoot a gun and you see a gun coming to like bullet coming towards you and you dodge and it's really funny. So initially our idea was we're gonna make that into game and we tried to do a bunch of prototyping for that and that kind of like the aim was that it's going to be okay this circular radial thing and then it's only going to move when time moves and it turns out that the levels were becoming very trivial and
Right.
last point of like making sure that our game gets done in 1 month we had to pivot really fast for that game mechanic
yeah, I
and we were
think in
like
the last 10 days or something like that, like we kept trying to make the old idea work for a while, and then we were like, okay, not enough time left, let's switch.
yeah I really want to make that game also sometime but yeah it was more of a last minute change at that point but some parts of the mechanics were there in the idea and actually uh, Gigi can take this but yeah actually like a lot of her games have that quality like some you decide with something and then like you test it out and it just doesn't work it's okay like navigate something yeah
Hmm.
I think
this is one of
actually this is a very important thing with like games in general. Like
hmm,
whatever, this is true for most interactive stuff. But this is like more specifically true for games because games are also oriented towards fun. Sometimes what an idea feels like in your head is not what it's gonna feel like when you play it. And like that was one of the things that we ran up against like multiple times throughout like those 6 months because what ended up happening was oh okay like we are thinking this would be fun we try it and we're like wow this is boring as hell I don't want to play it but like in the process we would find something else which was interesting as for art direct
visual
uh,
design.
yeah, visual design. So we wanted something super simple we wanted something that would stand out and like generally one of the aims for this entire like process was that we wanted something like when we wanted to try a new visual style with each one of our games like and you can see that like all of our games look very distinct from each other so a lot of it was just like oh okay maybe something neon-ish would be kind of cool to do and like just making it work in a certain sense like we did want to do something simple which is why everything is like just line art it's just bloom effect over things which makes it look a certain way like interactive objects are more gloomy and like the other like just environment objects are not so high on bloom but like basically it was just okay what can we do quickly what can we do simply and like just have readability stray hadn't come out then so we know who they copied.
Yeah, and also like this is an arcade feeling game, so it was a really nice homage to those Donkey Kong sort of a thing, like where they have
Hmm.
these similar art.
Yeah, especially because like in those CRT monitors, you didn't get the pixel feeling. You actually get like a lot of this diffused light feeling when you play on those monitors.
And
Um,
Bloom makes everything look slightly better. So
yeah, Bloom makes everything look better. Um,
I had
yeah,
hi, Samira.
hi.
I had a question.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Before starting on games, because you said that mostly it just kind of came up, the concept wise, it kind of just developed while you're doing it. Did you define what are games for you, or what would it mean largely? Like, okay, there are going to be goals that you achieve, or they're going to be like a narrative that you can discover, or it was more open, or you didn't need it.
I think we're both very like see one of the things that we realized is working together is that because we're sisters and we've had a very similar outlook on games growing up because we played together, a lot of these things, like one of those things, I'll know it when I see it. And if you're working with someone who has a like, very different outlook on it, like you need to align on those things, the two of us were just like, hmm, we know when we see it. But both of us have been a lot less worried about the number part of the game. Like for this also, like people said that you can put timer, you can put number of bounces, you can put everything. And at the end, we just decided we don't wanna like those kind of things force a particular play style. We wanted player to have that freedom. So we're just like we're gonna make a in a very abstract way. We're gonna make a system and we're gonna make it interesting and we're gonna see how it goes. And that question of is this a game hasn't really come up for us till now, but I think that's mostly because of our definitions aligning.
Yeah, I also think that like a large part of this project for both of us was just exploring what does making games feel like, because like every idea that we've worked on after these 6 games, we have been like fair, it's been very easy to align on our vision, because like of course shared vocabulary, but also we had just done so much work in like such a sort of constrained time together that we just understood each other like a lot more by the end of it. Like we understood each other's artistic vision quite well. Even now, like I think we find it easy to help each other out, even on projects we are not collaborating on, because it's like I think you get it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Only few fights in Mark.
Yes, only few fights. Uh, No,
um,
we actually split like fairly. We collaborate on game design for sure, but like otherwise, our skills are very, very complementary. Charu does all the development work and all the music work. I do all the visual work and the writing work, if any. Our games really didn't have too much writing work, to be very honest. For these games, like the documentaries that we made about the making process, like that's why I sort of like took more there, and Charu was like sort of focusing on end moment. Oh my god, we need to make the sounds perfect and we need to do all of the coding and all of the bugs testing. But yeah, like we have actually a very nice split between the two of us.
game
And
design is always combined, like we
yeah,
have it together for game design, but for everything else, like development audio.
yeah, awesome. Shall
Cool,
we
next
move
one.
on?
नंदिती तो कंप्यूटर ले आई है, वो अपना खेल रही है साइड में.
Awesome.
One convert has happened.
Thanks.
So I'll
um,
stop sharing. Gigi, you can share, or do you want me
yeah, mine is shared already.
to?
um, yeah, awesome. Okay, so this was the second, well, this is the second game we want to talk about, but this was in our series, this was the fourth game that we made. So it's a both of us really like puzzle games, both of us like escape rooms, and we wanted to make an escape room. But after making 3 games, 2 of which were very art heavy, I was tired, and we were like, okay, we're gonna do a zero visuals game. Like we're only gonna do a game which like requires us to do bare minimum UI, and mostly we're just gonna focus on mechanic. Um, and we had made 3 games, and what we hadn't thought about till now is like something which is more on a system level. Otherwise, like an idea would come to us, we'd make some prototypes, and then we will sort of like figure out all of the different parts of it. But this time we actually wanted to figure out, okay, what are the components of it. This is like a brief definition of a system, but like a system is a set of components and behavior that can be combined in broad spelling wrong broad ways, but the individual pieces are much simpler. And like for our game, we've needed 2 small like if you think about any escape room, if you guys have been to an escape room, you move around and you have puzzles that you solve. Those are the only 2 things, right? Like everything else can be combined in those things. You find like clues and cues by using your navigation systems, and you solve whatever, anything that comes across is just a puzzle. So I'll just like actually walk you through the game, and that might just make things a lot easier for us. um, can you guys see me actually?
We can see you
Yeah.
and we can see your screen share.
Okay, so I'll actually just like share the play screen.
Oops, how did I do that?
They're already playing the
He's
next one.
overtaken my computer. He's sitting on me and on my computer.
Well, I'm glad that he's enjoying it.
See now, see the next one is on you. Come here.
What?
Awesome.
Okay, so um,
Oh, sorry, let me mute now.
so if you see this game, like what we wanted, our navigation system was you just click on different parts of the text, and that is gonna take you through the environment of the game. Now, here, what the first time you click on something, there is one word. Right, like, oh, a door, there is some text, it's like, giving you some amount of context about the, like, world that you are inhabiting. You click on that. Now there is again another single line text, it says you are in the door, and there is like another doorknob. Okay, sure, maybe I click on that. And now, like, you just have text and you don't have anything colored. Now what we have taught the player is, if you click on something, you enter that space. If you, like, click on something again, you enter again, right? And there is some information that you're going to unlock every time you enter some space. Now, because you are logged here, you can't do anything. You would figure out that, oh, okay, if I press on the back button, I will go somewhere back. You don't know what this is. Now, previously there was just a door. Now there are like a bunch of different like, options here. The door is still there, but now there's also a sofa, a table, and a bookshelf. What we wanted to communicate here was like a much more dynamic thing than, like, oh, I went back, now it's the same thing. In visual like escape rooms, or visual games which are more puzzle oriented, it's very easy to sort of have new points of interest, because the player generally would not visually notice multiple things. But when we were doing something text based, we knew that, like, our levels, rather our narrative needs to structure itself in such a way that, like, all of these things are revealed over time. um, Now let's say I click on the sofa. Again, of course, the sofa has two things. If I click on the cushion, there's like, okay, now something under the cushion that fell. I don't know if the audio is transmitting, but
No, no, there's no audio of
No, no,
this.
you can hear it. You can hear that thing falling. Yes.
oh, okay, you,
Oh
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, like, now we wanted to communicate that, like, there are parts of the game which would be hidden from you. You don't know what fell, but you get the cue that something fell. Because we have multiple times already said that there is, like, darkness in the room. You can't see very clearly. Um, Now there's like, okay, something is under the sofa. It's too dark to see. So we're trying to reinforce. In some ways, this also shows, like, what is the next puzzle. It's too dark. You need to bring light to the room, right? Um, and then there's like, okay, third option. There's an envelope. You click on it. It's too dark to read anything, but you also get an item which is an envelope. Um, if you see till now, we have communicated what are the different navigational elements. You can interact with things, you can interact with, like, spaces, you can maybe pick up things, and sometimes when you do things, something in the world will change. Okay, now let's go to the table. The table is a mess, there are some papers, there is a table lamp. Now, what happens if I click on the lamp? I'm sure you can hear the sound of, like, the lamp, like, clicking on. But there is some light here. And now when we go back, it says there is also a drawer and a chair that wasn't visible in the dark. This communicates to the player that, oh, I can actually now see some of the things that were not visible to me. So let's see what was in the envelope. Oops. So if I click on the envelope is being dragged around with my mouse. Let's see. If I click on the lamp, I couldn't read it before, but now it's light enough, I can read it. There's some clue, probably, maybe, who knows. I wonder what Marie Curie was thinking. If I click on the drawer, something opens up. Now, this was our puzzle system. While right now it's just like this one slider thing, if you guys have experienced, like, online escape rooms, they will have, like, sometimes it's like a round lock, and sometimes it's like a key lock, and sometimes it's some other lock. Because we had time constraint, we also knew that we wanted to have one singular system for like creating puzzles. So this is a slider system. If you guys end up like going and playing the game, you'll realize that we've used the same system in very different formats throughout the game. Because now the player doesn't need to learn how to operate this puzzle. All they need to know is, okay, I'm shown something, I need to just figure out what the clues related to it are.
Yeah, Gigi, just 1 second on the
Yeah.
drawer. The drawer, open the drawer, please.
Yeah.
So there are two things in the puzzle system here: the numbers that you see on the sliders and the knobs of the sliders. And one of the things that we did is that generally the knob is irrelevant, and it's the numbers and the number of sliders that are the things. And in this game, we did like we combined everything. Like you'll see different knobs and you'll see different sliders, and like everything means, I don't know what it means, but it means something. And like you're able to have those three things where we can take like 4, 5 puzzles, 7, 8 puzzles, and then just like keep it in the same system without hopefully getting boring.
Now, like maybe I can. Nah, I guess the game doesn't want me to rest. If I see the papers, there is this number, right? Like 86353. Okay, let's see. There was also, so maybe 8 6 3
How
5
did I know?
Array,
3.
if you're solving, then how we'll play?
Oops! It didn't work.
Oh, it didn't work.
Oh no. So now if you guys want to figure out, maybe you can go and give it a try. But basically there is two different, this is how we use the two different systems in combination with each other. There's like a very simple navigation system. We wanted to make it super intuitive, and just like with Mark, at each step we wanted to think, okay, what does the player need to know now, and what would be their question in their head. Okay, what can I do, what can I do, and just like asking yourself what can I do next, what can I do next, is a very useful thing in that situation. Okay, that is the second game. And if you guys have any questions.
Yeah. Oh, one last thought that I had is like I don't know if you have noticed there, and I have this like very personal taste thing where we're just like we will not put tutorial in our game. We will teach it through playing the game, and for us
Right.
that has been a very important thing.
Yes.
There's no right or wrong, but we really like that thought that okay, the first level actually teaches you something about the game, and it's okay. We're very okay if player is confused for something for some time. How do
I'll
we
read out the question so that it stays on the stream also.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
yeah.
then answer it. So Shalin has asked, how do you decide how hard or easy to make something?
I think there's only one thing, player testing. Like honestly, there aren't like a lot of other ways you can gauge. Uh, One thing I have noticed is that Divya and I underestimate the hardness of the puzzle all the time. We're like, oh, this is trivial. This is gonna be finished in 5 minutes, and then people take hours and we're like, oh no, what have we done? But yeah, I think the only answer is to like you have your thing. So there are certain things. For example, like this puzzle requires you to think of 4 things. Okay, you need to get information from 2 places and you need to connect it in 2 different ways rather
Right.
than like information from one place. One of them is obviously like slightly easier, like from a mathematical point of view. So you can have some heuristics and some your intuition, but at the end of the day, like you go to the player and like you make them test. And how we decide like if we want something easy or hard, obviously there's a progression that we want in the game, and after that, honestly, the way we thought about it is like we want the playtime to be at least an hour and a half. We will
Right.
put 5 puzzles in the game. So, like, are people on an average taking that? But
Right.
for design, player testing is the only way you can know the difficulty.
Yeah. And
Which
it's
people do very good, very well,
yeah.
by the way.
I mean, like, okay, we just had a month, so there is also that. But I would also say one more thing. Like, of course, there is a sort of standard baseline where you yourself would lean when you are making something, which would be informed by like how many games and what kinds of games you have played. So I'm sure that the games that we played, which were the games that we made, which were more puzzle oriented, tend to be harder because we both enjoy making and playing puzzle based games a lot more. And
Same.
then there might be other categories where if we attempt, like that we haven't tried and making any, like 4x games, such as like your Age of Empires or Civilization type games or anything in that category. And they might, like our difficulty might not be correct for people who are veterans of those games, or
Right.
fighting games. Like those are very very different genres. So one part is like just genre exposure, and again, like you have to test with like a broad spectrum of audience, because not everybody is going to find every type of game the same difficulty. So you need to try with a lot of different people, and you need to figure out, okay, I'm creating for somebody who is of this variety. So for
Mm.
example, Ambika answered that question that Rasagya asked, which is like a 30-minute crier game. Like he answered like Florence, Ambika answered Florence is one of those games. Florence is super duper simple. Like there is no difficulty in Florence per se. You're not gonna, like not beat the game. But at the same time, like they're not trying to aim for beating the game. Like if you hear the designers talk, they are actually trying to make a game. They were trying to make a game that people could play with their grandparents. And like
Yeah.
that's a very different, you can't put sort of like, oh, if you're leaning more older, you don't want to put too many, like reflex oriented actions in your game or
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
Right.
those are the sort of variables that you would think about. But yeah, testing is the short and long answer.
Yeah. I mean, because you're on it all the time, and then you need a sort of third person to come and tell you that.
Hmm.
Yeah, especially with a game like this, like with Mark, you could still test. I could feel myself getting better at the game when we're playing them. But with a
Right.
game like Misplaced, I know the answer. There is no way I can actually like tell you how difficult it is.
Yeah.
And we only like honestly, we had this big fear that people are gonna finish the game in 5 minutes.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
like when we played, and that was the reverse of the feedback that we got.
Okay. So usually, like, I mean, because I have no clue about this stuff, but I wanted to know, like, when people start out with developing a game, do you already sense, like, how in filmmaking, okay, it's going to be a feature or it's going to be a short film or whatever, or I'm going to make a series of X number of episodes. So how does that fit into your early thought process, or is it not such a big concern early on?
I mean, I think it depends. Like we have had games where we have had a very clear vision of what we wanted it. Like, for example, this place was like a very specific. We knew exactly, and honestly, that was coming from being burnt out by multiple games, which is very weird because Misplaced is our favorite audience rated and our personal favorite game, and it comes from we are so tired, we're gonna take a chill game month this month. But
Right.
there have been games like the current game that Gigi and I are working on. It was like, let me do a 1 week project, and it's been a year, and it's just like, yeah, we can add like this one more thing. It's gonna make it good. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's also that, like, I recently was doing some research into how much writing goes into games.
Yeah.
So, like, the entire Harry Potter series is about 1 million words.
Okay.
Disco Elysium, a game which has the best writing. Like, if you guys enjoy political intrigue, some sort of like dystopian fiction or role playing, or like just very interesting mystery stories, I would 100% recommend. Disco Elysium alone has about 1 million words.
Really? Wow. Okay.
And then I was like, I checked some other games writing, and then I was like, okay, now I do not feel bad about not finishing this murder mystery game in a week and taking a long time. I don't think what we signed up for. Like we knew what we signed up for. Like, but
Yeah.
yeah. I think that like in mechanical terms we can still be like fairly accurate. That like
Mhm.
would this be really easy to implement? Would this be hard to implement? Because neither of us are like originally writers. I think like some part of like that just blindsides us. So I would say like with any other craft, the more you make it and the more you're familiar with it, the more you would be better at scoping it out,
Right. Okay. Cool. That's
which is
interesting.
why
Oh, sorry.
people
Go
should
ahead.
start small.
yeah,
Mm.
very heavily recommend
Right.
start small. And whatever you think is small,
Yeah.
One fourth it.
Exactly. I was gonna say 1/3. I was like, okay, corrected. 1/4 it.
Very interesting.
I mean, we also stand corrected in all the games. Like Mark was supposed to have like what 10, 15 levels. It has 8 levels.
Yeah.
Like everything that I've done has lesser things that we initially planned it to
Right.
have.
Yeah. Uh, Anyone else? Do you have some things you want to ask, or do you want to move to the next तीन थे, दो ही खेले ना अभी? Sorry,
Yes, there's
I'm
one
not
more.
track. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's play the next
We'll
one.
play all six. You have to just say.
Okay. Shall I share my screen, Charu?
Yes.
Yes.
You should.
Can't
Yes.
wait to play the game.
He's saying he can't wait to play the next one.
Awesome.
Proximity.
Okay.
Yeah, so proximity, it's a puzzle-based game where it's just like putting the right colors in the right order so that valid rules and you have to arrange things like sort of like color Sudoku if you must. Okay,
Right.
and
Colors should be matching together in a line.
so the thing was like this was the last game we made in the six series, and one of the things we realized is that we have done focused on new mechanic, art, whatever it is, but we have never really expanded a game to have a lot of levels. And so that what it does is like if you have one mechanic and like or three mechanics and you make six levels, you don't really challenge that mechanic. Like you don't really test if the mechanics is robust enough to take so many levels. So what we wanted to do was just have a system, have a couple of rules, and then like expand it to 40 levels. And this is the first time we actually did make 40 levels rather than making 20. Um, so I'll just share the proximity complaints.
Divya, do you mind unsharing? I think in the live stream, it's best if one person is sharing. Fine.
Yeah.
Yes, I see the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really loud. Yeah, I just assume that there is some royalty-free music going on in the background. At this point, I did not have the strength to make music or anything. Okay, so proximity is basically a color Sudoku, as I said, and as I talked about, like we just like the way we're doing this talk is just teaching the player through your game mechanic, like introducing small concepts over time, so that they learn how to play the game properly. So this was the first game level, and like we really believe in letting the player fiddle. Like we don't tell, oh, pick this piece up, put it there, and it's okay. I think like especially when we started to player test, like there's this urgency to be like, no, no, you can pick that thing up. No, it's okay. Let the player figure it out. It's a 30-second thing, but they really love it. Like once people figure it out, there's actually a gratification there that happens. So this game is like basically like if you understand primary colors, it's just like red and blue will make purple. So this is what we're trying to teach here. So,
Okay, do that.
and if you like, okay, so let's just say I put this here and I put it and I put this here, you realize that this is a black line and this is a white line. Okay, something is wrong. So now, okay, maybe this. Okay, this works.
Ah,
Like what you taught the player is like this is very simple,
right.
but you just taught the player the concept. So we go to the second level, and we basically what we did was we taught you the concept. Now let us just teach you the whole
Very
thing
good.
of levels. Okay, so okay, cool. So red and orange and yellow because red and yellow make orange. Then green and blue because red and green and yellow make
I
blue
got
and yellow make green, and then this. There is one weird thing that we realized, and it's a like a learning from the game is that we thought it's an extremely obvious thing, primary
how
colors,
do
and
we
people
go
are
in
gonna get it like this. But so many people just like took notes and just remembered what the answers are, and so they got
the
started.
blue?
And
Okay.
I was just like, oh no, how is this happening? Yeah, and so now, so what you realize was like a lot of this game, like our levels were structured in a way that will make someone play the game, and then we realized, okay, where are they not understanding it, and then we would make levels to fill in the gap of their understanding. So like we didn't have like a huge audience, but like my mom and
Orange
friends
comes
already
here.
played
Right.
and we just tried to figure out where are they lacking. And one of the big things we realized is like it's so obvious, but people are not putting the same color next to each other. They're just like, oh no, something wrong with that. So we made a game level where it's like, sure, you can come up with an answer where you don't put the same level, but like it forces you to like it's a very obvious thing for you to do it. It's the same first level, but it's actually like repeated three times so people realize that oh, it's like drag the things in. So,
Right.
so once you realize this, like you understood the basic gameplay. So you understood the rules part of the system. But what we now wanted is like, how do you think in this. Like, in Sudoku, you're thinking, okay, if 3 is not here, 3 is not here, then 3 is not here, then this should be 3. Like that reverse engineering the thing, and that's what we wanted player to get here. So, okay, let's just like, if I walk you through my thought process, okay, there is a blue here. Blue connects to a green and a purple. But there is no purple here, so probably blue has to go on a point where, and there's only one green, so blue has to go on a corner. So like you see the reverse logic that is happening in my head, and we wanted the player to like, I don't know if the player is gonna always get it, but people can always brute force this thing. But we're trying to make the player realize. That's why like the intentionality is there, that you only give like one side of the second like.
What color?
So okay, cool. So you do this,
Color.
and you might do this. Okay, so then
Like the
you realize that, oh, yellow connects to green, and then you solve the level. So now there are a bunch of more levels like this, but I'll just go and show you when there are more mechanics that we introduce. Every 10 level we introduce like one new small thing of mechanics, so that players can understand new things.
level.
So this
That's
is
what.
where we introduce the concept of shapes. In shapes, the thing was that you either match the shape or the color, and this level can only be solved if you actually understand that. Because
Oh.
if you like, if you do this, you realize that,
How
okay,
did that happen?
orange and blue match, but then nothing matches to red, and the only way you can actually solve this is this, because orange takes the color from red and the shape from blue.
Right.
Does that make sense? And this is the only solution, and you only proceed once you understand it. Like one of the big things that we realize in game design is like players will take the easiest path out. They do not care about their own fun or understanding the game. Like if you give them a button to increase their point 100 times and you give them an interesting puzzle, they are going to press that button.
Right. Yeah.
So what we're trying to do here is that there's only one solution, is to understand the game, and it's actually rewarding for the player to understand the game. So what we're trying to do is devise levels in a way which helps people do that. Okay, so this here, like this is the last level I'll go through, but like what we're trying to do here is, okay, there are 5 things, but one connects to 4 of them. So what is that crucial piece that connects to other 4? Because as soon as you figure that out, everything else becomes trivial. And this level, once you understand that concept, becomes trivial in itself, but you can use these combined learnings from all the levels to then go to an advanced level where you can use this crucial part somewhere else, same colors, understanding the pipeline and stuff. So let's just say, okay, I understand the red, not this red because this is the shapes red, and you can do this because yellow might not connect, but with the shapes it connects. So if I go back, like if you use all these things, you can call like bigger levels where you combine everything here, and then you understand what is the concept of this level and everything, and you are able to solve the game.
Wow.
Hmm.
Mind blown.
Yeah. I mean, this is like a very basic structure. Like we're really trying to focus on like how players get onboarded into understanding the game, but we don't look at onboarding as a separate thing than playing the game. We look at it as like everything is onboarding.
So, are there games like this you remember from your gaming experience that kind of made you feel this way, or this was more
I
just
mean,
I don't
Portal
know.
and Portal 2 is like definitely the best example out there. I
Huh.
know the game, like if you look at it, you'd be like, "Arey, this is like a really old game." Everybody can should play the game. Like it's incredible. It's one of the most like rewarding puzzling experiences. If you ever come across it. And I think like Portal does this really, really well. That like they sort of actually in Portal 2 they also have this developer commentary mode where you can just like what we did, right? Like we did slightly a bit of developer commentary through our games. They actually have like this developer commentary mode where you can go to different parts of the game and like just hear what the designers or the developers were thinking at that point. And it's like really, really interesting to just see. A couple of other games also have that. And like most games which have that, like Mark of the Ninja has it. You realize how much thinking goes, and those are actually really quite incredible games.
I mean, if you look at like game like Witness, which is a very like it gives you a similar feel as this mechanic, and he also uses the same thing. Jonathan Blow also has the same concept of like let the player figure it out, don't handhold them through the game.
Right.
Honestly, a lot of our favorite games have that character.
Yeah. I mean,
To figure it out. Huh.
if you want something like slightly easy, then Monument Valley is something which also does the same, like it follows the same principle, that like it'll introduce a concept, it'll let you figure it out, it's not gonna try and
My
handhold you.
mama plays Monument Valley.
Yeah, it's a great game.
You also
But
played, Hugo. Sorry.
because like I think that Monument Valley also has that, like I would say that patience to let the player have an aha moment. And
Right.
you really need to have that as a designer, especially if you come from like a product building perspective. It's very counterintuitive to let the, like user or player struggle, but it's just so valuable for people to be able to have that experience.
Right.
Yeah, and I think there's a big difference between frustration and struggle. And I'm not saying we've always gotten that balance right, but like you get that feedback. Like for example, in Misplaced, I think we could have improved the whatever that experience was of taking the object and like putting it on and like let's say that she picked up an envelope and put it on the light, because that was one of the things where people said that I didn't understand it. And I think we don't want it to be a point of frustration or not understanding, but we also want it to not be like tell. It's just always a show and always learning opportunities for us to understand where we missed the mark on that. But we'll always go in the show, not tell.
Charu, you want to unshare your screen, then we can see both of you.
Yeah.
Unless you want to show something more.
No, no, no.
Or maybe we wanna talk you through the last thing,
Yeah, sure.
like as in like just show the link to our video thing.
Yeah. So if you guys want to like,
Yeah, if you guys wanna, like if you enjoyed this, like I think there are like 6 different talks, fun for each game, and that dives much more deeply into like our entire process, how we, what were the initial ideas, and like what concepts did we explore, prototyping, all of that. So you can check out the video on that QR code.
a lot of behind the scenes sketches and stuff.
Yeah, and of course you can play the game on charutag.itch.io. She has a lot of other games also. She's just like keeps making games endlessly.
Okay, and just like in general, if I know, I think you guys use Unity because it was starting up when we opened the itch links. But usually, like, how do you, how can one get started? Are there some
I,
simple tools to
yeah,
get
I
into
think like
gaming?
I think like it depends on what sort of game you want to make and what skill set you already have. So for example, if somebody already knows like basic programming, that will like go for Unity or something like that. And depends on the game you're making. Let's say that you're like no, मुझे तो fancy car racing 3D game बनाना है. I would say go for Unreal or something that supports those kind of things. Obviously, there's a tool for everything. But let's say that you're like, I don't know any programming, then actually there are a bunch of online tools that you can use that have prototyping capabilities. Or like people make decent games on them also without any programming. For example, like if you want to make, there is very good tools for visual novels or any choice-based games that you can make. Sure, of course, if you limit, like it might limit certain things that you can do, but trust me, a lot of times limitations are good for your creative process because they restrict you into like 100 choices to 10 choices, and it's good. Like you
Right.
find creative solutions there. So yeah, but like if someone has a very specific need, like I want to make something like this, and what should I use? I'm much more comfortable giving that idea. But otherwise, like there's amazing tutorial. There's nothing stopping. I have learned everything on my own, so there is nothing like that tells that you
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
to start from somewhere.
And what are how are the games that you showed? Can
Uh-huh.
you tell us on what platforms did you make these games and how, were they different in what way?
Yeah, so like everything that we made in those 6 months was Unity, and I exported to web, and we have sometimes exported to Windows also, like Windows and Mac, because Unity just makes it very easy for you to export. We are launching the like proximity on Android and iOS now, like might as well. But yeah, that is what we did. And I've used other engines, but for this project, we just ended up using Unity for everything because
And
web we wanted it to be light. Huh?
yeah, and the game about interactive fiction.
Uh-huh.
When you were writing it,
Uh-huh.
how were you of the story.
Sorry, it got cut.
What tool were you using to map?
You have to repeat. I
Uh,
muted it.
what when you were writing the interactive fiction game?
Uh-huh.
What was it called? The second one?
Misplaced.
Misplaced.
Yeah. How were you managing the narrative branches? Where were you, like, what software were you really using to write that वो table
Uh,
पे वापस जाना है तो फिर you have to redo the text for the first. How were you
that's it.
managing the
So honestly, we just it was a very ad hoc system. You have to understand everything had to be done in a week, right? Like because 1 week of ideation, 1 week of procrastination, it's a lot.
yeah.
So it was all very ad hoc, and we really tried to put our strengths. So Divya would write on I think a Google Doc initially, and just write, and I just basically made a system in Unity where things could link to each other. After a while, it was a decent system, and because she's comfortable with Unity and I'm comfortable with Unity, we could do this thing where you could just make custom editors or something. I didn't even make a custom editor. I literally just put exposed a variable where people could just drag and you could just. So it was basically it's very ad hoc, but it's just like you write a dialogue and on the bottom you add like Gigi unsure to
Yeah.
three, four words that need to be interactable, and like behind that you just put like where they go, and it was actually readable enough. Like even if someone goes and looks at it today, it's not actually unreadable. But because our strengths lied in coding, so we just made a quick system around it. But there
Yeah.
are tools. I think Gigi, the device.
So there are two different tools that I haven't yet made any games on it, but I think Twine to Ambika and Nanditi, you guys have also used. And there is one more called the script is called Ink. The tool is I think called Inkle. They both Twine and Inkle both have integration with Unity and Unreal, if I'm not wrong, and Godot, if I'm not wrong. Whatever, like I don't remember, but like basically one of the things that helped us with Misplaced was also the focus was not on the narrative. Like narrative was just the vehicle for the puzzles and the navigation. If we wanted to make a game which would be more narrative centered, then we would need to use a very different system. Like the murder mystery game that Charu and I are right now making, and even though we are not writing the actual text for it because it's gonna be like the AI agents are gonna be driving the actual writing, we're still finding it like okay, we need to find some like writing systems that can help us map out all of the information, because then information flow really does become important. With Misplaced it was very easy because it was also small in scope there.
Yeah, and also like it sound the way it was actually done is that only the highlightable words are actually important.
Oh, really?
Everything else was quick writing done around it. We didn't even
I
have to.
see.
So,
Yeah.
so we could just be like, okay, cupboard, it goes into this, and then like it could just be a rough thing on our paper
No,
because there were like a total of 20 notes that we're talking about.
I see.
So we could do it, but yes, this was not a sustainable way. But there was one thing that we did, like later on, we wanted to make another game, another failed attempt of ours. But for that, we made a custom node-based system inside. If you have used like I don't know, Comfy UI or Blender or anything like
Yeah.
that, there is like node-based system. So in Unity, you can make a custom one, and I can even share it with someone if they care about it. Where we could actually do this. Okay, this is the dialogue. It connects here. It goes here. If someone
Twine also has
yeah,
Huh.
exactly.
Yeah.
We made something custom inside Unreal, inside Unity like that. Yeah.
Cool. That's interesting. Yeah, I do remember there was one example on Twine or somebody's blog post where they had built the whole system first on Twine. It was very complex and gigantic looking, and then they probably brought it to whatever engine.
Yeah.
So, but what was it like doing it so intensely? Like,
Only two mental breakdowns, I think. One
only.
two mental breakdowns.
Uh,
I mean, I think it
it
really
was
made
with
us.
our other work, by the way. So it
Yeah,
was,
yeah, we were also doing other work, like whatever projects we were on. But like, I think it really made us very good with each other. Like, there was some amount of magic that it felt like we almost captured in that time, where we were like able to intensely work together as like creative equals and have that like I hadn't had that relationship previously with anybody, neither had Charu, and like it was just like such a rewarding experience. Like I would say, that thing, mythical thing that people talk about, post traumatic growth, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, and actually it was really fun. And uh, I think the only problems we had were just like time wise, just like stretching ourselves thin. And we did take, like, honestly, like we did take like 10 days off in between because we was like, this is getting a little too much. But we got back to it. And I think initially we were a lot more strict about things because we were worried we won't actually go through the whole thing.
Right.
Because with personal project, it's so easy to drop the ball and just
Yeah.
like no client telling you to hurry
Yeah.
up. But yeah, we were just, I think, really proud that we were actually able to do everything. It was
Yeah.
right in the middle of pandemic also. So.
Quite incredible. Yeah. And
So we were not disturbed by other people coming around. We were just like, we can just sit in our house and make games.
yeah. And but before that, you guys hadn't. You had collaborated before, no? It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
not.
we had collaborated, but it wasn't to this level. I think like when you own the whole pipeline, it is a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
I think
Right.
like when I work for someone, there is a certain part of it. Like I can give suggestions on game design if I'm a developer, but I can't be like what you're doing is wrong. But with Divya, I could be like, no, this is not okay, and she could do the same thing back to me, and like that is a completely different thing. With not only you'll never have the feeling of it's okay, let her do whatever she's doing, and she won't have that feeling. We'll both be like, no, we want to be aligned, we want to do what we want, both of us want to do.
I
So
think that was also one of the most valuable things, at least like for me, because previously, so like my history was that I had worked as a freelancer for about like 6 years or so by that point, and I had like developed this very self-defensive way of operating. And then suddenly my sister keeps like, comes in the room and she's like, hey, this was wrong and I don't like what you did. And then I'm like, oh my God, you're attacking me. But like it was just really interesting to just sort of go through those creative differences and talk to each other through it, and like sort of go from when somebody is criticizing, they are attacking you, to when somebody is criticizing you and they're your collaborator, they're actually engaging with your work. And like just seeing that, like, criticism as an engagement point was like,
Yeah.
it's been very, like, at least for me, it's been career changing.
Very interesting. Yeah. Okay.
we honestly we only had that disagreement once. Like we made first level setup levels for March, and we're just like, no, 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 no,
This
no.
game
Every
is
point of the level was a no. But after that, I think it was very easy. We learned what to do.
So you didn't include your brother in this.
One of the games he was a part of,
Yeah, yeah, we
like,
didn't take to touch on it. It's called I Quit, which is actually AI Quit. Is a
Yeah. Yeah.
robotics game.
Yugen
It's
is
a
playing
pattern.
that right now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we did. Actually, but the thing is, his skills are 3D, and we just wanted to make quick, dirty web games.
Yeah. Yeah.
3D
And
is
also,
like
like,
tends to be very expensive. Like Charu has worked with him quite a bit. I've worked with him on other things as well. But like 3D in games is just like, okay, it's a whole other dimension and exponential complexity.
Yeah.
yeah, we're like, no.
I'm
That
leaving
one
it
thing.
out to others to ask questions, and then maybe we'll wrap up because we're just about a little bit over the time. But
Yeah. If anybody has questions.
Yugen doesn't. He's busy playing.
Yeah,
I
so
had
he
a
has one
question.
question. Why is this so hard? Can you help me? Yeah, so
Sorry. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry.
Hi. I had a question though. I am from a technical background, like I'm an engineer and all that, and I've been into this game development or art installations, like artistry part. But I've found myself very hard to detach like the two things apart. So I've always been like this technical perspective going forward, and when I do that, I end up losing, uh, taking in part of the design aspect and all that stuff. So how do you take care of that?
As in, I
Uh,
didn't understand the question.
as in, I think Charu would understand because she's also from a technical background. Like, how would you detach your design thinking and technical thinking, like make them two separate things rather than mixing them each other and creating a mess out of it, probably.
Yeah, I think like the way I look at it is like a very weird analogy in my head. It's just like different hats that you're wearing at a point. But like, if I'm working on a person on a project with Divya, I both of us come as creators of the product. Like this is producers of the product. We want this thing to exist, this game to exist, whatever this thing is. if I go to her and be like, we need the art, she can just be like, this is expensive, this is not expensive, and whatever it is. But like that artist or the technical part is just a thing that needs to be done. We love the process of it, obviously. Like she loves art, I love coding and everything, but like that's just a tool that is needed to get the thing done. So like the vision is always we need to make this thing, and this is my vision of it, this is your vision of it, align it and like ideate on it. But let's just say that okay, we need to finish this in a month. I can tell her for misplaced also. She told me like she gave a suggestion of a mechanic. I was like, too expensive, can't do. But that's how much I let the technical part speak in the meetings about like actual design. And then when I'm doing the technical part, I enjoy it. But it's more of a yeah, I'm getting to do this fun thing that I do, but that doesn't like it. More main thing is to make it, but that also goes to the point that like if two of like we say this a lot, like if we need to like groom the room to make the game happen, we'll do it. Like what we need to do matters way little than like what we're trying to make, and that's my personal thing. If you feel like I really want the tech side to shine, then like I personally don't operate in that way, but I can see that like you can figure out a way to make that work also.
I also honestly feel like if you are somebody who can wear multiple hats, then like you kind of need to teach yourself to wear the third hat of creator, and then just be like, okay, what would be the best for creation? Like one of the things that helped me while working with Charu was like suddenly like I could think about solving problems with code. Previously I just couldn't. All I knew was how to solve problems with design, but now I had another person. So if you feel like there is somebody around you who is like complementary in your skill set, you can also use them to bring out your creator side.
Yeah, I think like one of the cool things that Divya and I learned was that rather than trying to solve, like I would solve a problem to track, or she'll solve the problem to design. We're like, no, wait, like we can just discuss the problem, because sometimes the other term too is just so much easier. Like so many times it's like, oh, this mechanic is gonna add 5 hours of development time, and 5 is a lot for like a project that has so little time on the hand. But they were like, no, I think we can just like I can make I remember for misplaced there is this thing on top where you see the dialogues go up, right? And then I was like, okay, the fading is gonna take like a little bit of time and stuff like that. And then Gigi was like, no, it's okay. I'll give you an asset on top of it, and we'll just fake it. And it's just like, great, let's do it. And it's not that I can't do it. I can do it. But what is faster and cheaper, and just go about it. No ego about like this needs to be sold through
Yeah.
art or tech or anything like that. Just whatever needs to be done.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a clear conscious that let's just make it happen rather than thinking about okay.
Yeah, yeah. Like I look at it as like tools in the toolbox, whatever is needed. Like it doesn't have to be about like there have been games where programming was minimal. There have been games where art was minimal, and we're okay with that. We're
Yeah.
just like whatever game needs.
Right, got it. Yeah, I'm like I think I can recruit my sibling or someone.
They
That's
can't
good.
even escape you. It's the best idea.
Correct. Maybe this younger ones.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks for those who joined. And I don't know if you have more questions, and if Divya Charu have a few minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we have minutes with some questions,
It's a Saturday evening, not much to do.
but my D&D plans got cancelled, so I'm good. Okay.
Okay, I think people are fairly quiet only. But thanks, this was really amazing, and it gave us such a wonderful insight into what it means to make games, and so many, and together. I think it, like, for me, and I think Nanditi also, it ticks off many of the boxes that we are excited about always.
Yeah, thanks a
So
lot for having us, guys. Like this was also really fun for us to like look back on our stuff, because like sometimes okay, it's been like 5 years, we've made the games, whatever. But like it's
yeah,
just good to look back on it and be like, "Ooh, that was fun."
yeah. Anything you want to share about your murder mystery game or no?
No, I mean coming soon.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair,
Okay.
fair,
We'll
fair.
just like hopefully next time if you invite us for a talk, we'll at least have a website where we can be like, guys, you can go and check out the updates there.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good plan. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks a
All
lot for
right.
having us, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Bye.
for your time. Thanks everyone who joined.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
I
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye again.
Return here.
See, they're saying bye.
Bye.
Did you like the games?
Yes.
They have made the games. You want to tell them anything?
No, I want to play this game.
That's the best compliment I've ever.
I don't give a shit. I don't want to care about what you are saying.
Which one do you have? Ask them which one do you have to
Awesome.
play.
Bye,
Which one do we
Nandini.
have to?